guys, so we're starting off this workout with some abductors. Now abductors, as you can see, you are pushing out with your glutes. And these are a great exercise in and of themselves, but they are also a really great exercise to start any leg day workout with because you're training that mind-muscle connection as well as bringing some blood flow into your glutes. And finally, they really get you to activate your gluteus medius from the beginning, which is usually kind of difficult to target. The gluteus medius is used in exercises such as side steps and banded exercises that involve that upper part of your glutes. If you feel lower back soreness, it may be related to weak gluteus medius. So doing exercises like this will really help you target that and strengthen it for future exercises.
And squeeze, and squeeze, and squeeze, and squeeze.
And like Madison was saying, squeeze, squeeze. Though she's being funny, it is true that you really do want to squeeze at the top and really tighten your glutes. Leaning forward like we're doing can really help target the gluteus medius in the best way. So after 5 sets of 15 to 20 abductors, we're starting with some straight leg deadlifts. Now we're warming up with pretty light weight here because these can be a real stretch in the hamstring, which is difficult for a lot of people. With this exercise, we're working up to a heavy set of 12. Therefore, we will start out with lower weight until we can get up to that heavy set. We're working up very slowly, but making sure that each set is intentional, even if the weight is light. One thing that Madison was noticing during this was that one plate of hers was hitting the ground before the other. I believe her right side was a little lower. And that's something that's really common because we have slight shifts in our spine and areas of compensation. So with that, it's just important to adjust with every rep. Kind of notice what you're feeling.
Go.
Notice if one side is compensating for the other and adjust as you go. I'm really struggling, and that's pretty common because I am working up to a heavy set. Using straps like Madison and I are doing once you get to those sets where your forearms give out and where your grip strength is being compromised, it is really great to use straps to help hold the bar so that you can really focus on pulling through your posterior chain, that being your calves, hamstrings, glutes, and lats. And it takes the factor of weak or less strong grip strength out of the picture. Notice at the top she's really squeezing her glutes and focusing on pulling up.
Wrap them real tight. Wrap them real tight. Just keep wrapping, keep wrapping. Look at that beauty. Look at that. One.
The reason Madison keeps saying one is because I once teased her and told her to think of each rep as a single independent rep. That way you give your all to each rep and really focus on resetting your form for each one. This is a great exercise to do that, especially as you get heavy, because you don't want to compensate with any body part and you want to make sure that you're not straining your back. So thinking with each rep, 1, 1, and resetting each muscle group in the process, thinking about flattening your back, pulling up through your lats, and keeping your shoulders and arms tight throughout the process really makes sure that you can prevent injury and that you're keeping great form throughout the entire motion, even as you feel the strain from the heavy weight. So we did a heavy set of 12, and then we immediately did the heaviest we could go, which we both hit about 8. Now we're headed into hip thrusters. This is a great exercise for glutes, and there are several variations. We like to do them on the floor on a normal bench just because I feel like it has good range of motion. It's a little higher than a box most of the time. And if you add a band around your knees like I'm doing, it actually helps activate your glutes and gluteus medius a little bit more because you're having to push out with the band. As you can see, the weight that we're moving is pretty moderate. That was actually in my plan because the idea is focusing on your muscle contraction instead of trying to force some heavy weight. You really actually feel like you're working harder. Madison explained it as if her glutes were cramping. And in reality, there's so much blood flow going to the glutes, so much muscle contraction that it probably will feel like a spasm. The combination of thrusting up and contracting your glutes in combination with pushing your knees out to hit your side glutes really does a number on that booty, which is what we want, right?
Can I have the bar pad? Oh.
Ooh, that's about to hurt really bad. So as you can see, using a bar pad can be really beneficial, especially as you get leaner and your hip bones are more prominent. You can really get some serious bruising in that area. So using a pad to make it more comfortable is not weakness. In fact, it's a necessity. Now you can see I'm really focusing on moving my entire spine in a neutral position to be able to thrust my hips and hold it at the top. I make sure that my neck stays neutral with the rest of my body, even as I sink down and then rise up and then squeeze for at least a second at the top.
That's all I got.
Our next exercise is one that we don't see very often in the gym. You might get some strange looks, but as you can see from Madison's swamp butt, aka butt sweat, it's a good one. Now this one is called kneeling squats, and it is best done on a Smith machine just to keep your alignment right. It's really hard to do with a free bar, so I would highly recommend doing it like this. Find a good pad for under your knees, and then find a knee alignment that works best for you. I like to have my knees in line with my hips, pointing straight forward, whereas Madison likes to have her knees pointing out a bit. How you place your toes can also make a difference on how deeply you're able to sink back into the motion. I am wearing socks just so I don't sit back on my shoes, and I like to try to keep the tops of my feet on the floor so I can sink back a little farther as opposed to coming up on my toes. For me, I look down the entire time, really think about sticking my butt out as much as I can, and then squeezing it up at the top. I try not to generate momentum from any other body part but my glutes. Even though this weight, again, is pretty moderate, with high reps, 15 to 20 is what we're doing, you'll really feel this exercise working your glutes. By the last couple sets, I did go higher, and it was definitely a struggle. This is one that it's really hard to go up in weight in unless you specifically train this exercise. So, keep practicing, and I promise it'll be great for your leg days. This next exercise is killer, especially after all that we've already done. So these are Smith machine lunges with a slight variation. With these, you go down all the way, come back up halfway, go back down, and then come up for 1 rep. One mistake I'm making here is keeping my feet a little too wide apart, and I did notice that as I was working. Because you really want to keep the weight on that front quadricep, you want to make sure that your feet are at a good position to be able to keep the tension there. I adjusted my stance a little bit in this one, but I'm still a little bit too far apart. Because of that, it makes it a little easier to push through the back leg, which is not what you want. What you want is your stance to be about half or 2/3 of this width. That way, your back leg is just there for balance, and your front leg is completely doing all the work. This stance here is what you want. As you can see, my back leg is just there to keep me upright. My front quad is what's working. Leaning forward and looking down really helps me keep the tension on that front leg. The way I do this is 3 sets of 8 per leg with 45 seconds rest in between. By the end, your legs will be on fire. For those who have knee problems, this might not be for you. Madison just did split squats on a bench, and that was a great alternative to this. But in reality, working the muscles around your knee can be very beneficial to increasing your knee strength. I always avoided quad exercises, both to prevent quad growth, as that is pretty natural for me, and to avoid knee damage. However, the less I worked my quads, the more I overcompensated with my posterior chain and was more prone to injury. Now that I work my quads, I have no knee pain, and I'm really happy with the way that they've developed.
That almost didn't work.
And last but not least, I love finishing off this workout with slow and intentional hack squats. This is a really good machine, and not all of them will look like this. But the key here is to have your feet pretty high up and neutral on the platform. What I mean by neutral is not having your toes pointed too far out or in at all. You really want to make sure that the focus here is on your quads, and as you feel yourself sink farther into it, you'll feel that tension in your glutes. You can see Madison rearranged her foothold because of how it was feeling. This is very individual, and different foot stances may feel different for different people, so find what works for you. I almost like to put my toes off the edge of the machine. That way I don't push through my toes, but really focus on keeping it in my heels, which is when your butt is going to do the most work. Sinking down for 4 beats and exploding up for 1 will really keep that tension on your quads. And it's a killer one after doing all our previous exercises. The weight here doesn't have to be heavy because I promise it's going to be hard as crap. Another thing with this exercise is you really don't want to lock your knees at the top. You want to make sure that you do push up and get a full contraction with your quads, but that you don't lock your knees back. If you've ever seen that Instagram video of someone snapping their knee on a leg press, yeah, that's what we're wanting to avoid, in addition to knee strain in general. So keep it tight, keep it slow, and really think about how your leg muscles are working throughout this motion. And hopefully, tomorrow, you will not make it up the stairs. You are welcome.